Hello, hello, hello. This is Travis with Oscar Mike Radio, number 162. Today is Thursday, August 29th, and I'm remote to parts unknown. Well, not really. I am in Attleboro, Massachusetts, at the American Legion VFW post with some very. I'm just honored to be with these gentlemen right now. I have Ken, Jerry, and Armand. Ken is the VSO for Attelboro, U.S. Air Force veteran, and Jerry and Armand both served in Vietnam, Jerry being Army and Armand being USMC. Gentlemen, welcome to Oscar Mike Radio.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Oh, no problem, no problem. Really cool story how this came together, ladies and gentlemen. I was hit up by a coworker. And Scott's like, hey, I like your podcast. We have The Wall That Heals going on at Attleboro. I'm like, I'm in. I want in right now. And so through the VSO, and if you remember in a couple episodes earlier this year, we talked with Secretary Urena about what the VSOs do. The VSO made this all happen today at the American Legion. Gentlemen, it is a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
So I literally got chills when I heard about this because I've seen The Wall before, and I'm really interested to get your all's feelings about how this came together. So who wants to go first and kind of tell me how this idea came to fruition?
So I want to offer one quick correction. There's technicality more than anything, but there's a couple of different iterations of the wall that travel the country, and the wall that heals is one of them, and ours is called the moving wall. And I only offer that because, in my opinion, the one that we're bringing is the superior of the two. So it's a better experience, and working with the organization that brings that around to different communities throughout the country has been outstanding so far. So I want to give credit where credit is due. And so really this came about as the veterans agent. I'm always leery of doing what one veteran wants, right? So the Good Idea Club is strong, and everybody wants to support our veterans when they come into my office. And the former veterans agent retired. He's since passed away. His name was Jim Bound in North Attleboro. He would come in, and he's been essentially a mentor to me since I've been the veterans agent in Attleboro starting in 2015. And he came in and he had said repeatedly that bringing the moving wall to North Attleboro in 1999 and then again in 2005, those were the most powerful experiences, and he had the opportunity to touch so much of the community and help people so much throughout that process that he highly recommended doing it. And he said, it's time, Ken, it's time to bring it back. And so
the moving walls come here before?
It had, well, to our area, yeah, in North Attleboro, at the North Attleboro High School, twice, like I said, 99 and then 2005.
Okay.
So that was the last time it's been in our immediate community, although it was in Foxborough last year.
Yeah.
And it does travel around. And you mentioned Weymouth. I don't know whether that was the Wall That Heals or the moving wall, but they're both impactful and powerful. I started talking about it with basically every Vietnam veteran I could get myself in front of. I'd say, hey, what do you think about this idea? Because I wanted to make sure that I was going to have support, because it's a big project, it's a big undertaking. And so if it wasn't something that they wanted, then I wasn't going to spend the time, energy, and effort on that. I would find some way to support our veterans. And just about every time I brought it up, especially for those folks that had experienced the wall when it came under Jim Bound's watch, there was just this twinkle in their eye about what a great experience it was and how powerful a memorial it is, and just knowing the reaction that I got out of those Vietnam veterans that I talked to, I put in the application. And so you just make a submission to the nonprofit organization that hosts the wall, and if they can schedule it out, they'll say, what about these dates? And then you go through the process of bringing them here. But I had to make sure that I was going to it was going to be something that the community wanted and that the mayor would support, et cetera, before we went through those motions. And so I did that initial groundwork, and all of the feedback I've received ever since that time and going through the planning process has been overwhelmingly positive.
Why do you think the wall needs to be in our communities versus Washington, D.C.? What's the difference between having it in your community versus going to the original wall and seeing it there?
Well, I think it makes it easier for people to be able to come. A lot of people wouldn't be able to travel to DC and see the wall. First of all, it is very moving. I was at the wall when I was in North Attleboro in 2005, and I didn't realize how difficult it would be for me. It took me 3 times. It was so emotional to walk out there, and finally there was a lady there that came up to me and sensed that and took me through. And when I saw how powerful it was and how moving it was, when I was talking to Ken and he told me he was bringing it, I just had to be part of that. So I think that coming to Attleboro, a lot more people will be able to see it. This wall is being done up first class. It's being done up right, Ken behind it and everything, and the people behind it. It's going to be a great experience, but powerful. And I think it's great that all people in the community is reaching out to neighboring towns and everything to come and see it. And my experience with it has been powerful, and I think it will also.
So just real quick, when you say powerful, can you take me through what it was like seeing it for the first time, if that's possible?
It's there's just, it wasn't full size. It was just overwhelming to see the names on the wall, and I remember them having a book, and I actually looked up a name of a person that I went through boot camp with, and friend Charlie Brzezinski from Oyster Bay, Long Island, and we went to boot camp, and he was a Marine, and we used to write to each other. And finally, when one day I never heard from him again, and I just kind of knew what it was, and I let all that time go. So when I went there, and I just needed to know. So that lady, excuse me, that lady helped me look up his name, and it was just a feeling powerful, and looking at all those names of all those warriors that actually sacrificed time out of their life and paid the ultimate sacrifice to come here. It's just powerful.
And what about you, Jerry? I mean, how is this? I mean, I see your shirt on, University of Vietnam. It was an education for for almost every person who went over there. You know, all this time later, how is Vietnam still resonating with you?
I've been to the wall in Washington, and I know that the wall has been in our area. Couldn't go, I've done it in a while. And I think in a way, I'm trusting Ken. It's time for me, okay? Again, it's time for me to go see some of the names and remember them, but also remember that if their name is on that wall, that means we brought them home, they're home. And I think that's the one thing every veteran wants, is all of it to come home. And so that's why I said now I think I'm ready to go see the wall again. But the miniature, the names are the same, the locations change, that's all.
And you've changed. I mean, you too have had to have changed over the years. You've seen our country change. You've seen the way that service members are treated change. But I talked to a lot of Vietnam veterans, and it's been hard for them to move past because of how the war was conducted and how they were treated when they got back here. And I guess my question would be then is, do you see change going in the right direction with veterans today, or is it still needs a lot of work?
I think there is definitely a change. I see it. I think there's more to be done. what happened back then, and I think we have to focus on today with the veterans that are coming back and make sure we don't repeat the times we had back then. I'm good with everything the way it is now as far as the past, but I just don't want to see any others go through it.
A lot of Vietnam veterans tell me that the same thing pretty much. And the only thing I would ask or follow up with is they don't want to be forgotten. And the wall and paying attention to Vietnam makes sure that their service is not forgotten. Is that something you guys agree with or feel the same about? Or how's that feeling of knowing you were there and not wanting to be forgotten?
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead. You go.
I see it at least once or twice a week. One of the things that Attleboro has through Ken is driving veterans to hospital appointments, doctor's appointments, whatever, and hearing their stories, some being World War II, some being Korea, a lot being Vietnam, and they're appreciative of what they have now. There was a time when, the Veterans Agency and the hospitals were not all that great. But that was all they had. A lot of them didn't have outside insurance to be able to take care of them. So one of the things to appreciate is where we are now with the veterans hospitals and the veterans that go there. They're appreciative and no, they don't want to be forgotten. I personally, I was forgotten, and that was part of me. When I say I was forgotten, I forgot me.
You forgot you.
Yes. Until again, I started meeting other veterans that were saying, hey, it's okay. It's okay to feel the way you feel. But you gotta move on. And I started to.
So you have to move on. The wall is moving. The wall is the moving wall in more ways than one. And you feel that by bringing it back, it's going to allow you to keep moving forward in your life.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, every time like I've been to the moving walls several times, and like I said, the one in Attleboro was really done right, and the one that Ken and the committee are bringing to Attleboro is going to be really done. The planning that's going into that, and I feel when Ken mentioned to me he was bringing the wall there, I just had to be part of it because it's the big thing to me as far as being the veteran and in the past and wanting to be remembered and everything like that. Yeah, I did, but I've kind of weathered my storms with that now and moved on. My concentration is now, let's not repeat it. Let's take care of the veterans today. And
So let's go back to how the wall got here. And I see these T-shirts on the table, which are really cool. Can one or all of you show me, show the camera the T-shirt? It looks really cool, and kind of go over what we're seeing here.
So the local firefighters union wanted to support our effort to bring the moving wall to Attleboro, and the wall itself is run by a nonprofit organization, and to put the event on, the city is not charging anything. It's just being set up at Highland Park, a public park in Attleboro, but running the event itself does cost money. It costs the nonprofit organization money to truck the wall in. We've got to erect the wooden base that the wall gets set up on, and then there's just a bunch of considerations, lighting for it. We want to have a nice flag display and this sort of thing. So efforts like this in our community have been just one way that everybody in the community is rallying around the effort. So the Firefighters Union, Local 848, has printed shirts and they're selling them at the local farmers market. I don't think sell is the appropriate term. They're taking donations in exchange for the shirts. And 100% of the proceeds from those get donated to my office at City Hall and directly support bringing the wall to Attleboro. And I'm bound by law to expend those funds in support of this event, the way that's how donations work in Massachusetts. And if I can't expend that money in that way, then the donors have absolute confidence that my city auditor is going to require that we give those donation funds back. So our initial fundraising target was $20,000. We've exceeded that, and that has allowed us to do things like work with the school district to arrange for buses to bring middle school kids and elementary school kids in so that they can get educated about what the wall is and what this memorial means to our Vietnam veterans. Because at the farmers market, it's primarily an outreach initiative. It's an information booth that volunteers are staffing there. You'd be surprised that some folks don't even know that there is a Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall in Washington, D.C., much less that there's 58,000 names on it, and that there's this traveling iteration that moves around the country so that people can experience it in their own backyards. So the T-shirts are a fundraising tool and really a marketing tool to spread the word about it, and people will see, oh, it's coming, that's awesome, September 26th to the 30th, I'll be there, that kind of thing.
What does it mean to you both when you hear that the schools are going to let kids come and see this, when you have the kind of support you're having here and you see this all coming together? What's that been like for you all?
I think it's great for all these young people to come and see what it was like back then and learn from the past of the way it was when we came back, and be sure of them where they're gonna be the ones picking up and going forward, that things like this don't happen again. And hopefully when they go to the wall, the people of that generation, of our generation that will go there, look back on it, reflect back on it, and help talk about it to their sons, their daughters, their grandchildren, and explain more of it, of what was done then, and just to educate them on it now. And I think bringing a wall there and them seeing that, I think it's going to be, especially because the way it's going to be done up, I think it's going to be awesome. Good, awesome.
So for everybody out there, Massachusetts by law has a veteran service officer for every town. And Ken is the VSO, as we call them here, for Attleboro. Is this one of the best parts of your job, being able to serve in this way?
Absolutely. Massachusetts is unique in that arrangement. We've had that arrangement since it was formalized towards the end of the Civil War. But communities in Massachusetts have rallied around our veterans to make sure that they've got a basic level of support and quality of life ever since the French and Indian War, before we were actually a sovereign nation. And bringing veterans to the fore, having the opportunity to honor our veterans and rallying the community around an event like this is absolutely one of the most powerful elements of the job. And I take advantage of that in all different scenarios. One of my favorite things to do for Veterans Day, for example, is to bring elementary school choir in to sing patriotic songs throughout the ceremony, because you get an elementary school student to show up at that event, then you get two parents at that event, and then you've got members of the community interacting with veterans who would be at those events anyways, that might not otherwise have had the opportunity to meet. And so I love having events like this and giving the community an opportunity to coalesce around our priorities of taking care of our veterans.
Our VFW here in Attleboro, at least once a year, we go to certain schools and we'll raise the flag. They'll have all the kids come out. We'll raise the flag. We'll be in uniform. And then, depending on the school, one school will let us go in. We sit on the stage, and the kids can ask us questions.
Oh, nice.
Yes. Another school, we actually have a breakfast where we sit down with the kids, have a little breakfast, I think the wall, though, will answer a lot more questions, will bring it more to light for the kids, so that the next time we go to that school, if we mention the wall, then it brings that wall more to light for them, because now they know the reason for the wall.
Gotcha.
So,
So speaking of the wall, now where can people find the wall, and how do they get there? What's the logistics behind this event?
So the wall will be on display at Highland Park, formerly Highland Country Club here in Attleboro. The city purchased that when they went bankrupt. So now it's Highland Park. The best GPS address is probably 199 Mechanic Street. It'll be on display from September 26th through the 30th. And if people are forgetting any of that, we've got a website set up to try to spread some information, and a Facebook page. The website is attleboromovingwall.org. And the hardest part about that web address is remembering how to spell Attleboro. But it's attleboromovingwall.org, and we're going to try to make sure that information about what the visitor experience will be like is available there. It's not up right this second. That portion of the website right now, we were focused on doing some of the fundraisers and stuff. But as I mentioned, we've met our critical threshold, so we know we have an event, and from now until the event, it's just working on ways to make sure that it's the most outstanding.
So this event's about a month away, and you've got your fundraising in line. So now it's just spreading the word and connecting people to the actual event.
Yep. And the website is actually, there's a registration form there if people wanted to volunteer to staff the event. You mentioned, I don't recall whether it was before we started recording or after, but you mentioned that you showed up at 2 a.m. At one of the displays, and the moving wall is open 24 hours a day while it's on display. And we'll want volunteers to be able to help visitors 24 hours a day. If they have difficulty finding somebody on the wall, or just are overcome with emotion, the VA Mobile Vet Center has volunteered to be on site, on staff. We've got a local hospital who's going to have counseling and first aid support. We've got the volunteer nurse corps. There's going to be a tremendous amount of support at the event, but we also need volunteers who are willing just to help veterans or visitors with information about where to find a particular veteran, or want to know something about the wall, or just to get to and from their parking spot to the venue. All of that, we want volunteers on staff. So you can register to volunteer at our website as well.
Awesome. You know, for me, I knew I needed to make a change as a parent when my children learned about World War I, II, and the Vietnam War through Call of Duty. I'm like, I'm not doing my job as a dad if that's the basis of their historical knowledge. It's pretty poor. And started really investing some time into telling them about my service, which was brief, but I told them why I served and what that was like, and then started taking them to their grandfather served on the USS Massachusetts. And I just really believe that as long as these types of things are supported and accessible, that's how you can make change. And really just want to say thank you for your time and talking with me. A lot of service members from that era have a hard time doing that. But I think it's important that you tell your story so people can understand the human connection back to that time.
History, good or bad, is history. And we have to learn that, educate the younger generation with that. And I feel we're doing that with the wall. And respecting those veterans that paid the big price tag.
Absolutely. And, I just like the fact for me that there's still a drive to bring those service members who are still missing in action home. It's a big thing. And I feel as long as we're doing this, that will never be forgotten. So I just please, honored to be here, ladies and gentlemen. It's not very often I get to sit down with a group like this and talk and get their perspective in a very real, authentic way that is not pre-programmed or packaged. So this is one of the best parts of doing this. And so I encourage you, there'll be a blog post on the Oscar Mike Radio Facebook page with all this information, you know, the website for the event and the time and date. And you'll definitely see me there, gentlemen, with my camera and recorder. You know, I'll coordinate that with you, Ken, if I'm allowed to take pictures or, you know, talk to some people who want to talk about their experiences there, but would definitely like to come back at the event and support it, you know, if I may.
Absolutely. Yeah, the event is free and open to the public, and that includes you, and you're welcome to come on down.
Awesome, awesome.
May I add one more thing?
Absolutely.
When I was going to the airport in a uniform, and a young girl came up and said, "Would you buy a flower?" I said, "No, thank you." She said, "Baby killer," then ran away. That really bothered me and stuck with me until I think I was probably 6 or 7 years later. I had joined the National Guard full time, and during a parade, a little girl excuse me,
Sorry.
welcomed me home. I want to welcome these veterans home, and I want to thank the families that suffered so much. And I think when we have the wall here, we're telling them they're not forgotten. They never will be.
And that's the thing. I don't want you all to be forgotten. I don't want this time in our history to be forgotten. And I want us to learn from that. And I appreciate, I'm so honored that you guys would take time out of your day to tell us your story and your perspective. Thank you so much.
I'm also being a vet agent is a great thing, but he does so much behind the scenes. I am not an Attleboro resident, but I come to Attleboro because it's a very patriotic city, very veteran friendly. I spend time in Attleboro. People walk up to me, younger generation, thank me for my service and all. And for Ken to have asked me to get involved with the wall was an honor to me too, because I know it's going to be done upright. He does a great job, and I think you'll see that when you go to the wall.
Absolutely. Well, I will definitely be here. No doubt. I had planned on coming anyway. Just it had an effect on me the first time I saw it. My goal is to take my children to DC and see the static wall there. But we found 2 Partingtons died in Vietnam and started looking those people up in the Midwest, and that's been an interesting story. So again, just thank you very much. Again, ladies and gentlemen, you'll have all the information on the Oscar Mike Radio page about this. Watch the Facebook page for more information, and if you have any questions, reach out on the moving wall, not the wall that heals, the moving wall Facebook page for more info and insight. So with that, gentlemen, I just appreciate your time. You'll see me again, and we're going to call that a wrap.